Over the last 40 years, I've developed and led fuels and combustion equipment safety programs for the largest manufacturers in the world. Today, I'm bringing you knowledge, insights, and best practices about fired equipment and natural gas safety. Over the next few minutes, you'll get the kind of practical, real-life explanations that I've become known for.
When industrial disasters happen, like fires and explosions, sometimes those who are injured or property that has been damaged need to rely on the legal system for justice. Attorneys who take these cases know the law, but they must rely on technical experts to gather facts and help build their case. Oftentimes, their success lies solely in the quality of the technical experts they choose. Qualified experts help attorneys to understand things like what happened, what, if any, codes or installation standards were violated, maintenance, operation of equipment, and who should and should not be part of a case. Well, today, we're going to hear about what it's like to support these kinds of cases from an award-winning engineer who has served as a legal expert in some of the largest and most public industrial disasters in history. That engineer is John Puskar. John, thank you for taking some time out of your day to help us all better understand what goes on when engineers take on forensic assignments at disaster sites.
Thank you, Leila. I'm happy to be here. It's a pleasure to be able to share some of my experiences with you and the audience, and I especially love the chance to be able to explain some of the things that go on when you're trying to piece together exactly what happened at one of these large-scale disaster sites.
John, we're still seeing news reports of recovery efforts from the Florida condominium collapse. I'm sure there are and will be lots of engineers involved in piecing that tragedy together. What kinds of disasters have you been involved with?
Leila, my specialties are natural gas piping systems and large industrial fired equipment like boilers, thermal oxidizers, ovens, and furnaces. I've spent a lot of time professionally on code committees that develop the standards, which are the legal duty of care, for how these kinds of systems are to be installed, operated, and maintained. This is especially helpful in large legal cases that stem from accidents with this kind of equipment. I have an insight into how the rules were created for this equipment because I've been there face to face with other professionals debating and discussing what these rules should be. I've been an expert in very large public cases, like the 2010 clean energy power plant explosion that killed 6 people in Middletown, Connecticut. This was a $1 billion power plant being commissioned. More recently, I was an expert for the Loy Lang Box Company case in St. Louis, Missouri. This was in 2017, where a large part of a boiler system flew through the roof of a box company, landed 650 feet away, and killed innocent people. There were a total of 4 fatalities in that case. And I've also supported many smaller cases where there have been people severely injured and there's been extensive property damage. Things like carbon monoxide incidents at schools, industrial facilities that have had explosions that ruined equipment, and even hospital boiler explosions.
How is it that you get involved in these kinds of cases?
Most of the time, it's an attorney or someone from an insurance company or even a C-suite executive who's read my book, seen one of my videos, or read one of the dozens of papers that I've published in many technical journals that have to do with fuels and combustion system safety and some of the incidents that I've participated in. I've had the good fortune of being able to participate in these incidents from many different perspectives. I've been there as part of the plaintiff's team. I've been there as part of the insurance company defense team. I've represented equipment manufacturers, and I've represented equipment installers and contractors. This really helps me have a pretty global perspective about what's going on from everyone's perspective that's involved in a case.
So what happens next? Do they usually have you go out to these disaster sites right away?
Well, most of the time we're starting off having a somewhat high-level discussion about what the news reports are, what the fire department investigation has been, it's kind of preliminary in the beginning about what exactly happened. We do some vetting about, has this been involving a client that I've had previously, or maybe an equipment manufacturer that I've represented, just to make sure there's no conflicts. And at some point, we start to also discuss what my expertise is and how good of a team member I might be based on what it appears happened at the time. Once we get through the vetting process, there's usually some sort of site visit arranged, but site visits usually don't occur till a site's been cleared by law enforcement. Usually there's the FBI or ATF that's there to make sure that it wasn't a terrorist incident or some arsonist, someone who purposefully did something maybe to sabotage equipment that caused the event. Once this determination has been made, then there are safety experts which get involved, usually structural engineers if it's a building we'll have to be going into, and then of course there'll be folks that are concerned about if all of the utilities, the power, the natural gas, steam systems have been secured. There's a lot of effort that goes into just making sure investigators have a low risk at getting injured.
It sounds like there's a big emphasis on personal safety. It seems like these sites often have lots of damage and things could still be a little dicey.
Of course, there's a lot of emphasis on making sure that we're as safe as possible when we're there. There are PPE requirements, basic things like hard hats, safety glasses, steel-toed shoes, the type of clothing that's worn. There's often then safety briefings. In fact, there's a couple of very special stickers on this hard hat that I have. These two blue stripes down the middle here are from the Garner, North Carolina ConAgra Foods plant explosion in 2009. After receiving special safety training about where I could be in the remainder of the facility that had not collapsed, I was issued these two blue stripes that indicated that it was okay for me to be in certain restricted areas. Everyone had to receive training regarding where the building was and where the building was possibly not safe to enter.
Wow, it sounds a little chaotic. So there's law enforcement, people looking out for safety issues, and then a team of people like yourself representing various interests. And somehow through all of this, you have to stay focused on why you are there.
Layla, chaos is a perfect word for how some of these sites are. It could be very emotional to look down and see the remnants of medical equipment from people that were just being attended to maybe a day or two before you got there. I mentioned the 2017 Loy Lang Box Company case. Well, we were allowed into faultless linen, where this 2,000-pound pressure vessel came crashing down through the roof. There were parts of the interior of that facility that I had to investigate. And it was very emotional to be standing in the room, looking up at the ceiling, seeing the sky, seeing this 2,000-pound, 20-foot-long pressure vessel sticking through the roof, and then looking down at my feet and seeing bandages, seeing IV bags, seeing needles laying there, knowing that there had been a struggle for life just days before I got there. And while you're processing all of that, you have to make sure that you're not in harm's way, and you have to make sure that your mind is really focused and sharp on the facts that you're there to collect. It can be quite challenging.
How is it that you put this big puzzle together to be able to advise the legal team on what happened?
There are many parts to this puzzle that have to be considered, beyond just what's at the site. Oftentimes I'm prepped with design drawings, information about when this equipment was installed, so I could in advance identify the proper codes and standards that applied. Then there are often interviews with personnel at the site, maybe people who were actually there when the explosion occurred. All of this information together is invaluable in piecing together exactly what happened. One of the problems with site investigations is that you're often dealing with pieces parts, and you literally are putting a puzzle together. There are typically protocols developed, so that's all of the groups of experts getting together and identifying a way that the investigation will proceed. So it means things like, will we be GPS locating every fragment that's found in the field? Will we be photographing it? Will there be a witness involved? When will we be doing all of this? How will these things be bagged and tagged, and where will they be stored? What will the access be once we've collected all of these items? Will we all work together to try to reassemble the pieces parts? If so, where will that occur? How will that occur? As you can understand, there are many competing interests, and the smallest sliver of something could make a big difference in someone being in the case or out of the case or being responsible for what happened.
So do you usually go back to these sites multiple times as more is uncovered?
Yes, all of this usually unfolds very rapidly. It's a dynamic environment. And one of the important things I need to do early on is to figure out if I'm the right guy for the team or not, or frankly, where I fit in the bus. Should I even be on the bus, meaning on the team at all?
What do you mean by that, being the right guy?
One of the most important parts of why an expert is involved in a case is to provide a legal opinion. This happens either in a written report or a deposition or actual live testimony in court, or some combination of all three. Experts are expected to give opinions. Consultants don't give opinions, don't have to give opinions. As the case progresses, it's important for me to understand and to be able to articulate to the legal team if I am the best expert to provide the opinion that they need based on exactly what it is that has occurred or what the facts are. If it starts to look like the facts of the case aren't supported by my expertise, I need to raise my hand right away and tell them, hey, look, we need another team member, or I'm not the best guy. If you want, I can help you find someone with this specific little niche expertise, or I can back out completely and let someone else take over. Sometimes this means that I'm done with the case in a couple of days. Sometimes it's after a couple of weeks. But it's very, very important to have the integrity to be able to raise your hand and say, hey folks, for the good of the team, I'm not the best guy right now to provide an opinion.
It sounds like being a good resource to a legal team is much more than just the technical nuts and bolts of the site and equipment you're looking at.
It most certainly is. And of course, getting the facts and getting to the facts quickly is very important. But it's also very important to understand the overall strategy of what the case is about from your team's perspective. Sometimes it's understanding who should be in the case and who should not be in the case and why. Sometimes it's important to understand if testing of a particular device is important to the case or not important to the case. These are all things that could cost my team a lot of time, effort, and money, and it's good to understand whether or not there'll be a good benefit for the cost in both dollars and time. One of the strengths that I have in supporting these cases is my over 30 years of being on code committees. This gives me a lot of perspective as I'm at a site, as I sift through evidence, as I interview people, as I look at maintenance records. I already have a basic understanding of what the duty of care and the legal responsibility of equipment owners and operators is going to be. It gives me kind of an inherent advantage because I understand where to look and what to look for relatively quickly.
I had no idea what actually goes on behind the scenes for engineers that are investigating disasters. I really appreciate the time that you've taken to give us all a little glimpse into that world. If there's someone who would like to contact you about supporting a case, how would they get a hold of you?
Layla, there's never a convenient time for bad things to happen. I totally get that. My personal cell phone number is 216-213-6201. I've had folks call me in the middle of the night about a case. I've had folks call me on holidays and weekends. I'm okay with that. I understand that these things move quickly, and sometimes scheduling things come up, and there's a desperate need for someone to get to a site quickly and represent the team. I'm all about helping the team. So don't hesitate to call. There's no charge for a consultation about what happened in the case and where it might lead. I'm happy to have those kinds of discussions. If you'd like to know more about how I can help in some of the cases that I've participated in, I've got that kind of information at my website at www.prescientts.com. And Layla, once again, thank you very much for the time to be able to discuss how the legal behind the scenes expert part of this happens and what some of the most important issues are. I hope this has been informative.
Thank you very much. It was great to talk to you again, John.
Hi, it's John Puskar. I hope you found this episode useful. If you'd like to know about more ways that I can help, you can check out my website at www.prescientts.com. There you'll find information about the Prescient Technical Services Online School, my book, Fuels and Combustion System Safety, What You Don't Know Can Kill You, and also about some of the consulting projects that I've been providing to clients for the past 40 years. Things like implementing inspection and testing programs on a corporate enterprise-wide level, things like reviewing and commenting on capital equipment purchases that involve combustion equipment, and even being the legal expert if things go really wrong. Once again, thank you for attending, and remember, be safe out there. The life you save, it just might be yours.